Okay, shalom everyone. It's January 30th, 2024. We're delighted to have Moshe Gold back with us. Uh, Moshe, as you know, is our friend, I think a friend of our community. And of course, he's a professional tour guide and now also really developing his photography, as you can see. And we've been checking in with Moshe since October the 7th. And from before, during Corona, during the whole lockdown, we've had updates from Israel, and it's really, really a great pleasure to have him with us. Of course, we've had him in person. And Moshe, just checking in. How are you doing? And here we go. That's it. Pressing play.
Okay. Boker Tov, everyone. Shalom. Good to see you again and meeting again after, I think, 2 months since our last meeting. Um, if you can, just for a moment, show us your photo just so we can feel together just for a moment. So once again, Boker Tov from Jerusalem. Um, Today is a very cold day in Yerushalayim. Not snow yet, not freezing yet, but we're very excited after a whole week of rain. It was a very dry winter so far, so I'm glad to see that in my moshav, just outside of Jerusalem to the west, a moshav called Beit Zait, the house of the olive tree, the reservoir is actually filled up from the rains, and people are taking walks down there. And then yesterday, while taking a walk, by the reservoir, by the Agam, that little lake that we have, um, I got a text on my phone basically telling me that missiles are coming into Israel, specifically to the area of center Israel, the area of the airport, the area of Tel Aviv, and that whole region, Modi'in, if you know that area. No siren in our area of Jerusalem, but this was a huge thing because a month after really a pretty quiet time as far as missiles from the south, of course, in the north, every day there's missiles coming in. There's a very complex and wide war, different enemies on different sides, all connected to each other. But a month after a quiet month, suddenly Tel Aviv with 11 missiles to the area coming from Gaza. So that was not a good surprise. We were under the assumption, I think some of us, the civilians, that, after over 100 days in this war, most of them in Gaza with our troops, um, with so many brigades, of so many soldiers, with many of my nephews and also my brother-in-law, all of them fighting these fierce battles, we thought, maybe no more missiles. But that was a message from Hamas as well. It's not over yet, not in Gaza, and definitely not up north. We actually just we just passed we just passed Tu B'Shvat. Give me a thumbs up. I just want to make sure you see the screen with the tree. Um, as you know, I love photography. I'm a tour guide for 22 years, but one of my other passions is photography. I had a few exhibits in Israel and also in LA recently. This is a photo that I took on Sunday when I went down towards the Negev Desert. Now, when I say Negev Desert, where I grew up near Beersheba, there's this area called the Ruchama Ravine or Ruchama Badlands. That's how they translate it here. Uh, um, so this Ruchama area is a kibbutz area. These are the fields by Ruchama, and it doesn't look like a desert. This is what it looks like right after Tu B'Shvat every year. So I did my minhag. I did my tradition of going down every year right after Tu B'Shvat, and I just drove around on these dirt roads, tried not to sink in some of that mud after the rain, but it was really, really gorgeous. And just to give you an idea of what this Negev area looks like, just beautiful this time of year. And this is a photo I wanted to focus on that I took from my drone, 50 meters up, not more than that, because we have helicopters in there. And you can look west towards the plains, and that last area that you're seeing on the top of the picture is actually the Gaza Strip. So what am I saying? While I am in Ruchama Badlands on Sunday, I hear the F-16s. I hear not the gunshots, but the tank corps shooting and, all the noise of fighting only about 18 miles away to the west from where I was at. So that's reality, that all this beauty, and then war going on very, very close. I looked back from this field of flowers. Here's reality in Israel for you. And I thought, wow, this would be a great way to pick up my drone into the air. It has a camera on it. But when I started elevating with the drone, I saw that right in back of me, about a mile back on a hill, there was an Iron Dome system. So that would not be a good idea to have a drone up in the sky if there's an Iron Dome that is supposed to intercept anything in the air that's high enough. And that's the reality. In all this beauty, you have people driving around, having picnics, and there's an Iron Dome protecting Beersheba and the communities from firing that comes from missiles that are coming from Gaza, only 18 miles away. We also celebrated immediately after Tu B'Shvat on Saturday, on Shabbat, and I know it was mentioned by Bibi and other speakers, Yom HaShoah HaBen-Leumi, the Holocaust Memorial Day, the International Holocaust Memorial Day. It came up to me in my thoughts because this was a special year in Israel when all the politicians and also other people that were giving speeches or talking on the radio, they kept saying over the past few months something that bothered me a little bit. I wasn't sure how to, they say in Hebrew, lo yadati ech le'echol et ze. I didn't know how to eat it. What do I mean? They were saying the Hamas are Nazis. This is, in a way, a continuation of the Holocaust. It was hard for me, and I think for a lot of people, to hear those words talking about the state of Israel, talking about an infiltration and massacre in the state of Israel. But still, those words are being used. Hamas equals Nazis. Hamas equals ISIS. All these words are being used. But on Yom HaShoah, it was used in speeches again and again and again. I want to get back to that in just one moment. But first, I want to show you a 20-second clip of a relative of mine who's a video maker. He makes all these clips, and he's trying to bring us from exile, from the Holocaust with the Star of David, all the way to January of 2024. So it's going to be really fast, and we'll see it twice. I want you to look at the symbols he's using. I don't know about you, but it goes so fast. I guess that's the meaning of it. But they say in Hebrew, the word is tzmalmolet, like goosebumps. Starting with that, taking that Magen David with us and carrying it in front of us, in front of our eyes, in front of our soul, all the way through our tough times and good times, through the generations, all the way to our days today. So this is Avraham Kitzis. That's the name of my relative, the husband of a cousin of mine, and he created that. When I said that many people compare the massacre in Be'eri and Kfar Aza and Nir Oz and all the kibbutzim of the Gaza envelope to the Holocaust and the Hamas to the Nazis, you should know that one of the most famous leaders today in Israel from those kibbutzim, from specifically Kibbutz Be'eri, is a man called Chaim Yelin. Chaim Yelin used to be the head of the council of the Moatza of Eshkol, all the communities in the area of Be'eri and Kfar Aza, the Gaza envelope. So for a couple of years, he was in charge of all those communities. He's himself is a kibbutznik who lives in Be'eri that lost a tenth of its people, some still hostages, many were murdered. And he said the following sentence again and again on the radio. He said this: in Be'eri and in the Gaza envelope, We went through one Holocaust, one day in the Holocaust, right? This was an entire day of the Holocaust. He's talking about October 7th. And that's why this clip here is trying to hint to that when they're using those two words, never again. I'm not sure about the comparison. There's a lot of things we can say about that. But in any case, I think that many Israelis, including myself right now, um, have changed. We're still in trauma, like I'm sure a lot of you are. And the more and more I hear about what's going on in the States, and especially learning about some of my customers, groups of students, Ivy League students from all over the United States, and hearing the 70% of them that are supporting Hamas, or at least not supporting Israel, or supporting the Palestinian side, and not really seeing the Israeli side. I know everybody's going through some kind of trauma in the past few months, and I will talk about this a little bit today. Today, I'm going to try and make sure to leave a good like 15, 20 minutes at the end. I always say that, but because I really want to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to write things on the chat. On the bottom of the screen, you should see a button chat, and we'll look at that a little bit later, or you could just say out later on your comment or questions. So I want to now take you to one of a fascinating, and these are things that touched me. This is not necessarily just a lesson about the situation. I think one thing I've learned from feedback from you guys, from emails I've received and from the rabbi is I want to share with you the feelings of Israelis, of my family, of myself, of my friends around me. This is something that really touched me, and this is actually a video taken of a man called, I'll read the Hebrew, you're already reading the Hebrew, and it says the following, it says, Al Churvot Beitam, on the destruction house, the destroyed house, Daniel Chazar leKibbutz Be'eri, Daniel came back to Be'eri Kibbutz, and sang the song, Shehachi Ahavu Horav, that his parents loved the most. Ilan and Yehudit Weiss, his parents, Bidiuk b'makom shebo nirtzachu. So he's singing the song that they loved exactly in the place where they were murdered by the terrorists. So Daniel's back as a musician, singing a song on the ruins of his parents' house where he grew up and where they were murdered.
We're not hearing sound.
There should be.
הרוח מנגן עליי בחיוכי אונו אני גיטרה ומישהו קוראת עליי בחיוכי המנגינות מה שנוגע להבנות יש הסכמים יש הבנות.
Kibbutz Be'eri had 1,000 people living in it. The entire kibbutz is not there except a few dozen. They're working in the factories and with the cows that have to be milked. But they're all down in the Dead Sea area in hotels. It's not clear when they are going to come back. It is clear that a tenth of the kibbutz were either taken hostage or murdered. And I don't know when that kibbutz is going to come back. They have to feel safe enough. They have to know that breach, that infiltration through the different areas in the fence between us and Gaza, which is very close to them, is going to be closed and sealed so that this could never happen again. I think people in Israel really, really, really love the army, the IDF, but talking about all our intelligence units, talking about all our big generals, we feel like this was, I won't say I and many of my friends feel that this is a big kishalon, a failure. And they're going to need to once all this is over, they're going to have a big investigation, a committee to go through what needs to be changed, because the name of our army is Tzva Haganah LeIsrael. Tzva means army, and Haganah means defense. Tzahal is Tzva Haganah, IDF, right? The Israeli Defense Force. And here's where they failed. Not only our government, but also our army itself that is proving itself every day since October 7th in so many ways. This person over here became one of the biggest symbols in the past few weeks of fighting in Gaza. But really, I said to the rabbi before, Idan Amedi, who was an actor in a show called Fauda. You may have watched Fauda before. Fauda is a show about Israeli soldiers disguising themselves and going in to get the terrorists before they come and have terrorism in Israel. So Fauda is the name of a show. He's an actor, but he is the salt of the land. Melach haaretz. Melach haaretz, the salt of the land of Israel. He was injured with his unit. He left all the sets and the TV and acting and all that. He got an order number 8, meaning come right now to your base on October 7th. He's in a special unit. He goes into Gaza a few days later after fighting in the Gaza envelope and killing trying to get all the terrorists that were still in the kibbutzim. And eventually, a few weeks ago, he's injured very, very severely. I think it's one of those moments where Haneshima, the breath of the people of Israel, stopped. And really, this happened to Idan Amedi, and it happened to one of our heroes, and he managed to get back on his feet a few weeks later, just to say that he wants to go back. He wants to go back to his unit. He wants to continue because the job has not been totally finished. There's still more to do, as he says. But more than anything, he said this message. Now listen to this, because this is one of the trends in Israeli society, but especially in the reservists, Facebook, social media, emails, their phone calls, and when they talk on the media, here's what they all say. Stop talking politics. Stop talking disunity. Stop fighting with each other, politicians, leaders. Be leaders. This is the time where we, the fighters, need you to understand that united, we can be stronger. There's slogans all over Israel, on the roads, on the houses, and the shops. Everywhere you go, it says 2 words, Yachad, together, Nenatzeach, we will victory, we will win. Yachad Nenatzeach, maybe, and now some people are changing the sign to Yachad, or they're changing it to Chazakim Beyachad, Chazakim, strong together, not only for wars, but the claim is that we can't win, we can't fight together. You have reservists from the West Bank, settlers, you have left-wingers, you have right-wingers, you have older and younger reservists and soldiers, you have Druze, you have Arab soldiers, you have Bedouin soldiers, Christian Arab. We need to focus on the mission, and the mission is Tzava Hagana LeIsrael, to protect our people and to make sure that we don't only beat Hamas and try and destroy as much of them as we can and their infrastructure, but maybe not less important, get those hostages out, put enough pressure in order to make a deal to get out those 136 hostages. I remember talking to you 2 months ago and you were talking about 250. It's a koev alev. It hurts to even think about that, but that is the reality. And he says, I need our leadership to be strong. I need our people to be strong, just like we are the fighters in Israel. Last Tuesday, there was a terrible tragedy. And in this tragedy, in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza Strip, where most of our soldiers there in the Gaza Strip are down south right now. They already got the northern part, the city of Gaza. But in the Gaza Strip towards the south, there's 2 cities. One is called Rafiah, or Rafah in English, and that's the border with Egypt. And the next one to the north is called Khan Yunis. I used to serve in that area when we were still holding the communities of Gush Katif in '96. I remember that area. Khan Yunis has a lot of soldiers. 21 soldiers of ours were killed in one event and 3 others the day before. The 21 soldiers that were killed was a collapse of a huge building that they were in. There probably was a few major mistakes made here. I don't know what the army is going to decide about. There's an inquiry, there's an investigation about this. But Here's what came out right after that all over. Here's what it says on the left. 24 giborim, 24 heroes, giborim, mikol haaretz, from all over the land. Here's the message. Look to the right. Yehudim, Druzim, Muslimim, Notzrim, Christian, Bedouin, Datiim, religious, Chilonim, Ashkenazic, Sephardic, Mizrahi Jews, from the kfar, from the villages, from the city, from the kibbutz, from the moshav, 5 from the bottom, Mehahitnachalut, from the settlements in the West Bank, from the north, from the south, from Tel Aviv, and finally from Jerusalem. Stop separating us and saying, oh, the settlers are not doing this, or the left-wingers of Tel Aviv don't care about fighting in Gaza. We are all fighting together. The bottom left with the flag says the following, Halevai, we wish, Veniyeh reuim lachem, that we are worthy of these heroes that sacrificed their life. 2 weeks ago, I went down there. I think I mentioned, I was talking to a rabbi before a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you know, I'm planning to go down to Kfar Aza, one of the kibbutzim that lost about 1/8 of their community, hostage and killed in this massacre. And I went down to Kfar Aza, and at the gate, they stopped me. I went down there. I thought I'm going to go and bear witness, but it really shook me. It was a very, very difficult thing to do. I basically went down because I knew that I'm going to guide next week, actually, a solidarity trip of the Ramah, National Ramah Commission, NRC group, who's going to come with 2 buses to Israel next week for 4 days. They're going to come off the plane exhausted on Monday, and they're going to leave even more exhausted on Thursday night. And we're going to work in fields. I'm going to take them to the hostages square where demonstrations happen in Tel Aviv. I'm going to take them probably into this kibbutz and the ruined part of it. And we're going to meet people that went through this, soldiers as well. So it's going to be like a birthright trip. It's going to be super intense, 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 or 9 every day. But it's really not about the fun or the shopping. It's about showing solidarity and getting some work done. So I went to Kfar Aza, and my experience I do want to share with you in a couple minutes. So you can see a few of the photos. I didn't take my camera in there. I felt it's not a tourist attraction. I felt weird going in there the minute I got there. And again, I don't want to make that comparison again, but when I guide in Poland and I go into one of those forests where the Umschlagsplatz killed people, murdered people, there's this quiet going into the young community, young neighborhood in Kibbutz Kfar Aza. Out of the 800 members, this is the area that was hurt the most, where the young people after their army service get these little 2-bedroom apartments. And I was there before most of the tour buses came, right? Some of the tour buses were soldiers. It's important for the soldiers to know what they're fighting for. So they bring special units and fighters to come and see this. The first thing I saw, and you could see how empty it was. I came early in the morning. I said to the guy at the gate, I'm going to the exhibit. He said, okay, go through. And I knew there's an exhibit in one of the houses where a couple, Naor and Sivan, were murdered. Their mother decided to have their little apartment open for visitors. All the others are closed. And they have like a string, a rope in front of it, like a scene of crime. This is one of the areas in the kibbutz where dozens of people were murdered. You can see the black parts, and this is untouched ever since October 7th. Quiet early in the morning, and I get there and I see the burnt houses, and I see the ruins of these places. And what really doesn't leave my mind is this photo here, because if on the left you could see the edge of these few apartments, and then all the way over here on far distance, that is Gaza. You see a white spot all the way at the end of the photo on the top, but the border is closer. The border from this gate of the kibbutz that's usually closed, unless the agricultural people close it and then shut it during the day, is only less than 1 kilometer from the border with Gaza. I want you to understand why Kfar Aza and Be'eri and Nir Oz and these kibbutzim, Nachal Oz, they are so close to the border. These ruins over here, this black spot, right, all these ruins, this is not garbage. They burnt cars, they burnt different things when they came in here. They parked in this parking lot. I'm talking about the terrorists after they came through the fence, and they just came out with their machine guns. And when they loaded people after destroying whoever they could, they put people on their trucks. Some of them they walked them through the fields of the kibbutz to the border. There was a gap that they already made in the fence, and they took them into Gaza. Where was the army? They weren't here yet. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But many others, they just put on their trucks and took them into Gaza. When was this exactly? Simchat Torah morning, Shabbat morning, October 7th, 6:30 in the morning. People are hiding in their mamad, in their safe room that every house here has, every apartment with 2 bedrooms. They're very small, these bedrooms, mostly couples. And they're hiding because they hear the siren going off, and the missiles and the mortar bombs don't stop. And when you live at Kfar Aza, that means you're going to be hit eventually. So it's better to stay in. But then they start hearing gunshots. This is the fence, by the way, I just showed you before. You could see there's a couple different fences. This didn't help when the Hamas blew up this fence over here on the right and just walked in and drove in. This is one of the tours of the Chayalim that were here to learn about this. And this is what I want to focus on in the next 3 minutes. Sivan El-Kabetz, look to the right, and Naor Hasidim are a couple that was brutally murdered in this house. Their mother, who's an artist herself, decided to make this an exhibit. I want to walk you. This is going to be difficult, and I'm sorry in advance, but it's important to see. I took a video to show you what this little apartment is. You could see the size of the apartment. You could already see the end of the apartment. You'll see a few plaques that the mother put on, but you also see the bullet marks, the ruined furniture, and what you're not seeing is what Zaka is the religious people that come to collect the bodies or part of bodies found specifically in this apartment after hundreds of gunshots took place. The couple that was here was in their safe room, that last room, and they were shot to death. They were not taken hostage. But before those people barged through their door, a WhatsApp conversation went on between Sivan and her mother and father, who also live in this area of the Gaza envelope. Abba, tinalu dlatot. Yesh chashash lechadira ba'otet. Dad, lock your doors. They say that there's an infiltration of Hamas. The woman in here is writing to her father. Abba, kol habayit shelachem na'ul, is all your house? She's checking with her father if their house is actually locked. We are hearing a lot of gunshots. What's going on? Abba, bevakasha tagid li. Right? Please tell me that you are okay. Right? Sagi beseder, Shenua beseder, that her brother Sagi or sister are okay. This is all going on WhatsApp. Her mother puts this up later on. We are hiding in the mamad in our safe room. Himayuli b'chalon, they were just here at our window. We are under our bed, me and my boyfriend Naol. Is everybody beseder? Kulam beseder, Abba? Anachnu beseder, he answers. Kulam beseder. And the next part of this is actually, and this I want to show you, is what we actually find right outside the house. And this I want to read for just one moment. I'll see if I can make it a little bit clearer. Okay, you just asked me on WhatsApp, what is it, Mom? What's going on here, Mom? Mom, Mother, let me know every 5 minutes that you're okay. Sivan is worried about her parents. Hundreds of gunshots inside this bedroom. I'm not showing you the entire thing, but you're seeing parts of it. And when you walk through these different apartments, here's a Chanukiah that somebody put up, but all these marks on the wall is different units of the army. They had to mark, we went through this one, continue to the next place. We checked that nobody's injured here, no dead people anymore here. We took them out, that there's no explosive and there's no terrorist in here. So they marked this ruined zone. This sign is not a new one, the one on the left. This sign says, continuing together, running for office, Ophir Liebstein. Ophir lives in Be'eri, and he was the head of council of this region, and he was murdered. The sign is still up. It's the guy in the picture. They left it there. He was just murdered in October 7th, trying to fight back. And this is Yotam Chaim, who was one of the 3 soldiers. You probably remember this, who about a month ago, that was another stop breathing time in Israel when we heard on the news that 3 hostages in Gaza managed to escape the people that held them as prisoners. They came out and walked through the streets of Gaza looking for the soldiers. They took off their clothes, picked up their hands, and spoke Hebrew to the soldiers, but the soldiers shot them. The soldiers had a split second to decide, are they wearing explosives? Are they just is this a trick that Hamas is using to aim a different gun at us? And they shot them. The mother of Yotam Chaim, who was kidnapped from his apartment here and later on was shot by our friendly fire. This was a horrible, horrible, horrible event. She immediately came out and said to the soldiers in the news, the mother of Yotam Chaim, who was a drummer, who was a musician, she says, I don't blame you, the soldiers, for what happened. You could have made a different decision, but you are a soldier. It was a split second. You're professional soldiers. And even though it's a mistake, I am your mother too. In no way you should feel that this is your fault. The fault is on Hamas. They put us in this horrible situation. 3 of our soldiers were murdered. Were killed by a mistake by our own soldiers in the Gaza Strip a month ago. He was one of them, and he was kidnapped from this room in Kibbutz Kfar Aza. This is something that you got to look at this at some point. Just you can Google mapping the massacre. Just remember those words. You can put that on Google, but it's a map of the Gaza envelope, right? And if you go down, all the red spots are actually the different kibbutzim. Every dot is a person that was murdered. And when you go closer and closer and closer, you'll see that there's more and more red spots, because we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, actually over 1,200 people that were murdered. And when you click on this name, his picture comes up. Yotam Chaim, murdered in captivity, 28, Kfar Aza. Yotam is the drummer for the band Persephore. He was supposed to play at a metal festival the same day. After 70 days in captivity, Yotam was mistakenly killed by the IDF during a difficult battle in Sajaiya, right? Every one of these, by the way, the blue dots are hostages, right? These are hostages that were caught in this area. Everything was marked on this map. And this one specifically was already released, but look at the blue spots and look at the red spots, and you're not really seeing all of them, but you could see where all these people were murdered. This huge area over here is the Re'im Music Festival massacre, where people came to dance in the forest outside of Kibbutz Re'im. Why in the world, if we had intelligence, and probably we didn't have enough or it wasn't interpreted, but why were thousands of people allowed to come on Friday night, on Shabbat, evening, Simchat Torah, to dance from 12 o'clock at night until missiles started coming at 6:30 in the morning, when you're so close to the border, to Gaza, right? Nobody ever thought that this could happen. Every one of these is a name of a person and their story, okay? It's actually not everyone. They couldn't get all the names. But this is the Re'im Nova Festival, and this is what it looks like today. And when I went there 2 weeks ago, in the forest, people put up flags with names of their loved ones that were murdered there, that came to dance for peace and tolerance. That's what this was about in this festival. And they were murdered as trying to escape not only the missiles, but the terrorists that surrounded them, and just killed 364 people in one spot. They just executed them. They just executed. Some of these people were Arab Israelis, some were Jewish, some were Christian, some were Druze, some were even Muslim Arab Israeli. They were murdered because they were Israelis and because they were there. This woman, Karine Jorno, was murdered there. Her pictures from her youth. And this is what it looks like with the 364 names and pictures at this open area where the dancing took place and where the murder took place. I used to come to this forest because of the anemones, the kalaniot, who come out, and a festival called Darom Adom, the Red Festival of anemones, where we come down to this Gaza envelope and eat some falafel. They sell it out in the forest and take pictures and have a picnic with the red flowers. And this is right now, it's all covered with red, by the way. Going to be there next week. Maybe I'll send you a picture of this, even in this memorial. But when I walked deeper into the forest, one family put their daughter and her dog, her loved dog, in their own little memorial here in the forest. One of the biggest issues going on today. What's the biggest issue today on the news is actually to release the hostages, and specifically a deal that is being discussed between the US and maybe people from the CAA and from different Arab countries. Egypt is one of them. Qatar is one of them. Of course, our Mossad representatives trying to come to a deal to get out those 136 hostages. The deal is talking about, we don't know everything, right? Yet it's not really on the news. There's assumptions that for every one of the people that they're going to let out, the Hamas will let out, there'll be many, many, many terrorists that will be freed from our prisons. Apparently, we have 8,000 prisoners, many of them with hands filled with blood of killing Jews, but a lot of them may be let go for our for Israeli Jews. When Gilad Shalit was let out in 2005, over 1,000 terrorists were let out, many of them with blood on their hands. And this was one soldier in 2005 that we rescued, that we tried to get out. There's a lot of critique about this. What are we teaching the other side? Maybe, we're teaching them that when they do this, they're just going to win all their terrorists back. But I think the society of Israel, the majority of people are saying, this could have been me, this could have been my son, or my mother, or my grandfather, or even my baby, like Fir Bibas, the redhead baby, who is 1 year and 1 month old right now, and he's in captivity, a hostage in Gaza. Now, to put pressure on Hamas, the army and the government are saying to us every day, the Speaker of the Army keeps saying this, he says, we are fighting in Gaza with all of our soldiers so that they understand that they're pushed against the wall, so that Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, will understand that he needs to come to a deal or die, and there won't be any more Hamas leadership in Gaza. Hamas won't stop existing in other countries, but if he doesn't do this, we're going to get everyone, and he can't make a deal unless he gives us back the hostages. These people came for the last 2 weeks to Kerem Shalom border pass between Egypt, Gaza, and Israel. These are where the trucks, look at the truck on the left, coming in to the Gaza Strip through the security wall, the border between Gaza, Israel, and Hamas. Over 200 trucks are coming in daily. Many people feel that this is a huge mistake. Why are you feeding with fuel, with water bottles, with food, and mostly flour, all these people in Gaza, when we know that more than 60%, that's what they're saying, is taken by the Hamas people, who are gaining civil power by being the ones who take it to themselves, but also they're now taking care of their people, right? Even though there's demonstrations in Gaza, there was one in the news the other day against Hamas, hundreds of people yelling, we want Hamas out, we want Hamas out. But now Hamas is stealing with guns all these supplies. Many people say we're never going to get the hostages out if we don't crush Sinwar and the Hamas to a point where they have to make a deal. Whether this is true or not, this is what's happening. By the way, the other side is saying, and this is the government and the army, they're saying if we don't bring in supplies, we can't continue the hunt of Sinwar. We can't continue fighting the Hamas because the US, who's supporting us in so many physical and other ways, is not going to allow us to continue this war. So if we don't give them at least a minimal amount of food to the 2.2 million people in there, even if Hamas is taking a lot of it, we're just not going to get the hostages back. So this is a huge dispute in Israeli society. These are people demonstrating, trying to block those trucks. They don't get food until we get our hostages back. And, it's not an easy question, and there's no easy answers over here. I'm just going to check one little thing here. Rabbi, do you see him on the list of people? Tzur Atapo? Okay, I was hoping my nephew Tzur um, actually got out of Gaza 2 days ago, and I didn't want to tell you this in advance, but he said he may come on for 2 or 3 minutes. So he may be able to join us just to say hi. He was a officer with the paratroopers. He was in there for over 2 months, and I spoke with him for the first time after 2 months yesterday, and I started breathing again because out of my 4 nephews and one brother-in-law who were fighting in Gaza without coming out, without phones, without knowing what's happening with them, they're finally out, except one, or actually two. One is in a very elite unit, and they come in and out, and he still doesn't talk on the phone with us because he says, I'm in war mode. I can't start talking with people. I don't know when they're calling me back in. Sur as well, who's a 27-year-old nephew of mine, basically says, look, they're letting us come out right now. Now they're actually having discussions in an army base with the entire brigade and smaller groups, kind of psychologically working through what they went through. He says, we're disappointed. We're happy to be going home for a short while, but we know they're going to call us back for the north, meaning for Hezbollah. And we know that we failed in a way because we promised that we're not going to leave Gaza until we bring back our brothers.
Sorry, Moshe. I don't think he's on. What's it? What am I looking for? Tour?
Oh, Tsur, Tssurr. He made double letters, but it could be he said that he's not going to be able to come for sure.
Yeah,
If
no,
you
he's
see
not
the
here.
name, just
I don't
yeah.
see him.
In,
Okay.
in any case, but I just the feeling personally, the feeling of having all these family members in Gaza and hearing every day the two words "utar lepirsum" on the news, on the radio. I wake up every morning at like 4:45 when my twin girls wake up, and they go to sleep for another half an hour, and then they come to our beds. They now walk. They're a year and a half old, and the light of our life right now. But the first thing I do is I check my phone. I know that's not a good thing to do, but the first two words I see is utar lepirsum. Utar from the word mutar, allowed. Pirsum is publication, so it's allowed to publicize that. These are the names of soldiers that were killed yesterday.
Moshe, I think now would be a good time to take
Yeah,
some questions. We do have some questions in the chat box, and if people want to write a question in or
this is a great time for
yeah.
that perfectly.
So
So,
David Sigmund wrote in about your thoughts on Jewish unity to the fractured American Jewish community, how we can internalize the message here at this auspicious moment. I think, if I can just add to that, I mean, you're encountering people coming in on these missions, and it's a larger question which we may get into, which is how are you shaping the message, and what are your thoughts about the message of Yachad and taking it back with us, and just if you could start on
I
that.
mean, part of these solidarity trips, part of these Zooms, the meetings we're having, part of what you do, Rabbi, every week. I know that every week you show different movies and clips, and it feels to me as an Israeli and as an American citizen, but as Israeli that lived here 47 out of my 48 years, that we're all together in this.
Yeah.
I know that American Jews are suffering um, on your side from anti-Semitism, especially in universities, but maybe also in synagogues. We know that from Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, and we know how anti-Semitism and the vocal demonstrations against Jews are all over the United States, and it's frightening. It's disturbing. This is your home, one of your two homes,
Yeah.
and I think that by being with us, you have no idea how much koach this gives us. I'm hoping that part of these talks give you some koach, because Am Yisrael Chai is not about Israelis, right? It's about the Israeli about the Jewish people and the entire Jewish world. Um, you and us both are connected to Zion, to the land of Israel, to Jerusalem, to the Jews, and to our common goals of morality. So I think you're right. This is an opportunity to take those messages that talk about Achdut Israel, Achdut from the word Echad, the unity of Israel, and making it not Israel, the state of Israel, but a unity and understanding the unity of the people of Israel is important. It really doesn't matter, conservative, reform, religious, non-religious, wherever you live in the world, we're one people, and our destiny is one. I think in the end of the day, we're understanding we are one people. History teaches us that, but it's definitely a message that should come out. And thank you for bringing this up, David, because it's, you know, I'm thinking, and I talked about this with the rabbi, I just went through this guide training thing. You know, how do we guide in the next few weeks when I guide the solidarity? There's like 100 guides that came together to discuss how have we changed as guides? What are the messages that we are going to give out? And this is one of those ideas that I know I'm going to use and write down, and I feel them deeply, not only about Israeli society, but that, to understand Yachad, we are chazakim. Yachad, we are strong. When we start fighting and grouping into little groups, that's how the second temple was destroyed. And the only way the second temple would be built again, right, they say, is actually when there will be more ahavat chinams, free love between the Jewish people. So that is definitely a message that I am thinking about all the time, how to make it not only part of the Israelis, but how to use this as an opportunity to connect the Jewish people. I know that the first thing you guys do and what you do daily is watch the news and talk to your relatives around you and talk to Israelis and read about Israel. And we feel part of you, and we feel you are part of us. And that is very, very important. Whether you come to Israel now, later, or you continue on these Zoom sessions or support your community or Israel, you're strengthening the Am Yisrael Chai. So that's my
So
long answer.
I'd
Yes.
like to answer. No, I think just to add one sentence, which is it's all about the personal connection. I mean, we certainly, have the sense of emotional connection to the stories that we're seeing in the media, but having this connection, and especially, having it with you and with others, people who are close to us. I want to go on. Sue, Keo was on our trip a couple of years ago, and you recall that we went to the Peace Wall in 2018. And I don't know if you remember, Moshe, where that was. That was in
Yeah.
far Oz or near Oz?
It was in Netiva Sarah. And by the way, my nephew is here right now for a few minutes, so I'm going to answer through. That's a
Okay,
great. And then
let,
I'm gonna go back to Tzur for just a moment. So Rabbi, if we
let's
go a
let
few
me.
minutes late, I'm sorry in
No, no
advance.
problem, no
Um,
problem. Just
so
gonna.
so if you can unmute yourself. So
Okay.
can I hear you? So
Yeah,
can
I
you
think you can hear me.
Now you
There
can.
you are. Here we
there
go.
he is with his unit.
I'm gonna spotlight
Yeah.
you, okay, or pin you.
Spotlight Tzur. Susan, in the
Okay.
meantime, before I introduce Tzur, ותודה, תודה, אני אוהב אותך. I want to just say the name of that community is Netiv HaSara, and I think about 20, I don't remember the exact number, but about 20 of the members of Netiv HaSara with the peace wall that we visited on our trip to Israel were actually murdered. Many of them were fighting and were killed in battle. It's unbelievable. These are places that you visited. This is reality. It's not just something on the news. You were there. You were there. You touched that wall. We were dreaming about peace. We were looking towards the other side of the border. That community is not there right now. Right?
Moshe, let me just ask you if you just stop the share so Tzur can see everybody.
Yes, yes. And now let's go to Susan. I hope that answered your question. Stu, I know you have limited time. And again, I'm so happy you're with us. I can't believe this is the first time I'm actually seeing you after 2 months.
Indeed.
Nabil, tell us about yourself. And then I'll ask you some
Okay,
questions. Who are you? What have you been
I'm
doing the last 2 months?
I'm Tur. I'm Moshe's nephew. I'm 28. I live in Haifa. I grew up in Sansana in the south. I'm a lieutenant, I think, in Seren, in the three bars, in the reserves. And in the past 4 months, with my team, we fought in the war. We started in the 7th in October. We were drafted. We actually wasn't drafted until the 8th, but all of us just went into our garages, took all our equipment, and we went into war when we knew the country actually needed us. we we took care of our equipment for one day, and then in Monday we went into Kfar Aza while there was still battles in Kfar Aza. A very nice place. We were in battles in Sad, that is a kibbutz that my cousin lives there, and we went in and we moved house, neighborhood by neighborhood, and cleaned them up from all the terrorists. Afterwards, we finished there. We stayed there for a whole 30 hours. We went out and we continued training before we go back into war. We went up north because everything was horrible and crazy, and everybody thought we will fight in another chazit, another
Front.
front. In the same time, we succeeded to freeze the north front, sort of freeze. There are still battles over there every day, and then we went down back to the south, and in the last 60 days we were in Gaza, in Khan Yunis. Past there, in the every neighborhood you pass, you fight your way through, and you actually see the culture that they raise their children on, a culture of hatred. They won't let us leave anywhere. All around, they have maps of the whole Israel country as their own. In the kindergartens, they have photos of their heroes, the shaheeds, all the terrorists that were in the attacks. They actually hate us, and they educate their children to hate us also. We had losses in our Gdud and Pluga, and it's battle is hard, but when you go out there and you feel the weight of the whole Jewish people on your shoulders, you know why you're there, and you're willing to continue working. And my soldiers are not kids. They're fathers, they're business owners. They sacrifice, and their family sacrifice their life for 4.5 months. Crazy. And now we finished our first part. We are now in a day of
Reflection.
we actually, reflection and seeing what happened and talking about it, so we could minimize the effect that it would have on us in our future and prepare us for our next battle if and when needed.
So you said to me yesterday, first of all, I'm so proud of you. And I told you how worried I was, but together with the worried, I don't know if you saw my 20 WhatsApps I sent, like every 2 seconds. I love you. I care about you. I'm thinking of you. Please text me when you can. And finally, I got that phone call yesterday. And one of the things you said to me is that you're preparing for the next battle up north. But you also mentioned to me that you have a bittersweet feeling, because it's sweet to come home to your new wife, Oshrat. You just got married a couple months ago, but you left your beginning of your university studies, second year, I believe, to go directly in Order 8, to the army for so many months. That's what it means to be a reservist and an officer. But you said there was a bitter part about.
But we didn't finish it. We didn't finish our job.
Could you explain?
We started the battles with 2 missions. The first mission is to bring back home all the kidnapped. Okay? The second mission is to bring the safety back to our people, and that's by taking down Hamas leaders. Hamas is idea, and the responsible people for that terrible idea and terrible way that they acted is their leaders, and they won't let us go. And we went in with the belief and knowledge that we can go there and take them out and free everyone And we came in and we discovered we couldn't. And we didn't succeed. In 60 days of war, we as a unit couldn't do it. And it's a horrible feeling. You know you did your best and you know this part finished and others continues your battle, but you go home and you're supposed to go back to your life and you still know that your mission isn't over. Even if it's for us being prepared for our next battle up north, and even if it's for us to being ready for going back into Gaza in a month or two, it's not over. And it's a horrible feeling to go to battle and to feel that you sacrifice everything. And even with all your effort, you didn't finish the war.
Right.
I hope we will finish it sooner than later, but it's not over yet.
So
And as long as we won't finish, it won't be over.
let me ask you a question because I know many people are curious about the ththings you do, but I want to. You're 38. How old are you?
28.
28. Okay, I'm sorry. You look. You know, of course, these days have put.
Yeah, I lost my hair
There you
during the war.
But I want to ask you about your generation and even the generation, you know, slightly younger than you, who, you know, what I hear is Hadora Madhim Hazeh, Hadora Madhim Hazeh, this amazing generation that, you know, people were quite skeptical of. They were criticizing, you know, this generation, and now this generation really is showing itself. And you're part of that generation. You're maybe a little older, but give us your comments about your generation and the people coming up.
In the beginning, I thought we're all, including me and my soldiers, a little too much self-centered. Okay, that it was appealing until the 7th of October, when we saw that the self-centering is making everyone part of me. We're not it's not only my generation, it's the generation after me. They don't only see themselves as a unit, they see everybody around them as a part of themselves. And when we got hurt as a nation in the 7th of October, this part flew open and we all saw it. They fought in the most horrible battles. I have a friend that got hurt during a battle in the Mutzav of Kisufim. They were 15 soldiers against more than 50 Hamas. They went in they were in the unit, in the team. There were only 15. They divided into 3 parts of 5 soldiers. He's in the front, Chod, we call it. He and his friend is injured. The other 3 in his own little group died. But in that battle, they freed over 30 Tatzpitaniot, soldiers and citizens that were trapped in that kibbutz under that terrorist. And he told me, I didn't think about myself as only me. I am a symbol of the Jewish people. I am everyone around me. And if we won't protect ourselves, he told me nobody would. So I'm not a hero. I'm just a regular man that tried to protect himself. And everybody in that house that I saved, in that specific Hamal Tatzpiot, is me. And it's amazing to see how he felt and what he did.
Right. So I actually want to thank you at this point. And you said you're not a hero for me, and I think for all of us, you guys, all of you are heroes. You're not only fighting for Israel, you're fighting for the Jewish people. And that's what we've been talking about. This is something that you and us too are probably not going to forget our whole life. So I think we all salute you and thank you for your service. And I'm waiting to give you a hug. So I'll talk to you later. Go back to your session.
Yeah, I need to go, guys.
Thank you so much.
Everybody that has questions, you can send them to Moshe and I'll try to answer them one by one.
We welcome you.
Shalom.
If you're ever in the United States, come to us. We'll.
And he actually means that. He actually, yes, from my experience. Rabbi, do I have 7 or 8 minutes to quickly further questions?
We have a
Okay.
lot of questions here, and
Fantastic, fantastic. And I know some of you may have other things to do, and we're going a little bit over the hour, but I'll try and make this quick. I want to say in advance, I read all the questions.
good.
Some of them will take 20 minutes to answer. So I'm going to give you my short answer. I'm happy to continue discussing in further Zooms or by email. So whatever I can answer, I'll try and do. I'm talking about Rebecca Friedman's question. I'm curious about what's happening in the West Bank, right? She's talking about the killings, the terrorizing towards the Palestinians, forcing them out of their land, etc. Is this just a free for all, or is there some oversight? There's a war going on right now in Gaza Strip and up north. We do hear about this in the news, but not as much. So my honest answer to you is that is not my understanding of what's happening there. But I know there are battles trying every night to go in and to target, assassinate, or capture Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists. Yes, I think throughout the past years, there have been specific occasions when Palestinians were terrorized by specific group, maybe of extreme settlers or others, but these are, this is not what settlers or Israelis usually do. So my short answer is I don't know about the things you're writing about, that it's something as a whole. There is oversight. There is people, our law system, our Supreme Court, our army leaders are trying to stay a moral army. Do bad things happen? Sometimes within our ranks? I'm sure they do as well. Okay, I know that didn't answer the whole question. I hope it answered part. I want to answer Kevin, who's asking about the State Department travel advisory to Israel. During every time in war and operation in the past 20 years, 22 years that I've been in this kind of work, whenever American youth or youth groups or adult groups came to Israel or just to visit, they always check this advisory. The advisory always does what we call in Judaism the chumrah, right? They become makpid. They go as far as they can to say, better not to go because you will put yourself in danger. Many people, when they actually come to Israel, this is my experience, they say, I feel totally safe. So it really depends where you're going and who are you going with, and when you are going to those specific places. If you're going to go on a Friday to Temple Mount right after the Gaza operation or whatever, you probably didn't have a good tour guide or not a good decision about this. So I don't know how they make their decisions, but I do know that even though they sometimes give these negative advisories or trying to protect their civilians, tourism is coming and it has come throughout the entire year. So if you know of someone here in a group, I can assure you that their guides, their family, their fellow Israelis and Jews are making sure that they're not going to areas where they shouldn't be. I hope that helps a little bit. Robert, what information, social media strategies that is employing to counter pro-Hamas? Have you considered sharing excellent and impactful presentations like this with wide crowds? First of all, thank you. It's what I want to do, and I'm trying to reach out there. I have 2 more other Zooms next week and the week after. If you can help me reach more people, I would love to do it. I think more than talking politics and arguing about facts and about what we should do, just to meet someone from the place itself, a primary source, is very, very important. So I think your statement is right. I'm trying to get it out there. Is it possible to count at spots right now? It's possible. It's not recommended. Up north, there are missiles every day from Hezbollah. So I'm sitting in my nice little apartment in a moshav near Jerusalem. You just talked to one of the soldiers that left Gaza 2 days ago. They had a huge ceremony afterwards, and it was broadcasted on Facebook. He gave us the link. I was in tears. They were singing Hatikva, and right before that, they read over 20 names of their brigade that were killed during battle to give them respect. So I'm sitting right over here, but up in the north, battles are going on, and Sfat is not a good idea to go to right now, maybe in a few weeks or months. The next thing is about Nachal Oz. Rebecca was actually there and Nachal Oz lost, as far as I know, 66 people in the battles and massacre that happened there, soldiers and civilians. My friend Gadi is serving there in the Miluim right now, and I was there 2 weeks ago. It's right on the border with Gaza. 66 people from a kibbutz and an army base on the border of Gaza that were killed in one day. ורד, תני לי עוד 3 דקות ואני מסיים. אני בא, בסדר? אנחנו באמצע. סליחה. That's my wife. She's coming back with the babies. This is their, she took them to the mall for this presentation, and then they're going to sleep. Henry Solomon, our son Matthew participated in a protest in Gaza. They feel strongly that the hostages must be released before relief is sent into Gaza. So do a lot of us agree with that statement. David Goldfarb, sadly, disunity is on display in Israel, including current government, as exhibited by the recent return to Gaza meetings. That's Binyamin Uma, right, talking about bringing back communities into the Gaza Strip. Oh my God. With just about any potential, right, the threat of Otzma Yehudit to leave government with just about any potential hostage agreement. So basically talking about disunity and harming the trying to get those hostages out. Lapid said this morning he would any coalition gap, he would fill any coalition gap, and the hate speech from Channel 14. What, if anything, can be done to contain this madness? This all has direct determinal impacts inside and outside the US, Israel, and worldwide. I couldn't agree more. I'm going to copy and paste this. This is happening because a lot of us are saying this is happening because amongst the fact that Hamas was preparing this for many, 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 many years, and our own failures of the army and intelligence, but we were seen in our weakness. What is our weakness? When we go like this, instead of pointing our fists out towards our enemies. I couldn't agree more. What can we do? Education, stronger and better leaders, get rid of the people that teach us to hate each other and not work together against our enemies. It's going to be a process, but I could promise you this: every reservist like Tzur keeps saying again and again, it doesn't matter when you're in reserves, and it shouldn't matter in your everyday life. If you're where you're from in Israel and what your political beliefs are, we are one people. And if we don't believe that, not only that we won't have a right for this land, but we won't live here anymore sooner or later. That's what they're saying. It's not we're ninatzeach. We're not going to win every battle, because it's not only Gaza. Hezbollah is stronger, and the Houthim from Yemen are strong, and Iran is a totally even bigger power that's sponsoring all these people. We don't have a different choice than to work together and try to agree to, even when we or agree to disagree sometimes. What kind of land with Israel will Israel be in the future? I know that every one of us has changed. The physical land hasn't changed too much, but the people have, and I'm hoping that from this trauma, we will rise again from the dust. And yes, from those ashes of the murdered, we have to be strong. We have to work together. We have to learn how to listen before we answer. We have to learn that even though we think we're totally right about 105% of everything, there's still other opinions that we need to learn to live with. And we are together with the entire Jewish world. There's no other way. There's too many people out there that don't want us to exist, and definitely not in outside of Israel and in Israel. Lots of press and this sort of thing in the US. What? I don't see the last part. What's
the picture that you have behind you?
Oh, okay. So that's what's the picture behind you? Is that the reservoir you spoke about? Yes, and with this I'll end as well and show you just one last thing, and that is what I've been doing for the few months. And this is all a part of my photography, becoming more professional after a few exhibits I have. Follow Moses Photos on the internet, and you'll see my Israel photography, where you could take a look at all these awesome pictures of landscapes of Israel. There's about 150 of them. This is one that I really, really love. So many great things for us to see. And again, thank you for all your questions. I know it went a little bit quicker towards the end, but I tried to get all your questions. You have my email. If you want to see those photos, follow Moses Photos. You'll see it on Google. And thank you, Rabbi, once again. This is so important to me to keep this relationship.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
To Israel, I'm going to say this.
you.
When you come to Israel, look me up.
Yep.
And I'll be your tour guide. I'll be your friend. I'll answer your questions. I'll help you out, whatever it is. Okay? So
Moshe,
have a
this
good
is
day.
דרישת שלום מדני. דני
תודה
ביקש
רבה.
למסור דרישת שלום.
תודה
I
רבה.
muted people to thank everyone. I just, Moshe, thank you so much. It's always you've given us so much. I'll let everyone say goodbye. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Moshe.
תודה רבה.
Bye. Great to see you all. תודה.
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 So much, Moshe. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna stop the